What ho, and welcome to the Triple Takeover Toycast, a fortnightly podcast dedicated to the Transformers as well as other toy lines from the past. For episode 44, we're talking about some of our favourite retools, so if you're expecting a load of Combinable Silverbolt jokes, you're probably not going to be disappointed. As usual, I'm joined by an original mould with only minor signs of degradation. It's writer, photographer, it's M.A.S.K, aka TFsquareone.
I take issue with minor. That's just factually incorrect.
And we are also joined by someone for whom the term mould fatigue is just an excuse to buy another MP10 inspired by his shoe.
Yes.
It's writer, photographer, and YouTuber, Sixo.
Hello, how are you doing?
And I'm Toybox Soapbox, or as the postman calls me, Liam. How's it going, lads? I was going to start with what's shaking or what's happening in Groove Town, but I figured that they're your guys' thing.
Yeah, stick with the classics. Why not?
Are you always going to go with what ho at the start of the episodes now?
Yeah. It's a tribute to a friend, so, you know.
It's a very Liam expression, that. And whenever I hear you say it, I'm like, yep, that's a total Liamism.
What Owen? Oh, hoi hoi.
Ahoy hoy. It's a good way of answering the telephone.
Yeah. So what's been happening, dudes?
Not a lot, I don't think, really. I don't know, I say that. I've been putting some pictures up in my office. Got some nice prints from Andy Cousins, which is quite exciting.
Oh, but that TF movie poster, though.
And
Yeah, I saw that.
TF movie poster as well. Yeah, I felt a bit bad, actually, Liam, because you said you've been searching for it for ages, and I've managed to acquire one. So I did feel a little bit bad about that. But
In about 72 hours from his first mention on Discord or Twitter, I think it was to him having it framed and on Twitter again.
It was quite swift, I'm not going to lie.
I was mildly jealous, but I've seen it on eBay quite a few times, but then it's always slightly dog-eared, ripped, or something like that, marks on it. It's like,
To be fair, this one's definitely not perfect. It's got a few, it's got, the obvious creases from the folds from the magazine. It's got a little rip here. There's a little tear just at the top. It is a little bit dog-eared, but actually I've stuck it in a frame today. And if anything, I kind of like the dog-earedness of it. It sort of almost got that
vintage
kind of vintage appeal to it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of like it. And I've seen where it's going to go on the wall, actually, just behind where I am now. I can't wait, because this was a poster that I had.
So I'm going to have to look at it every week
time
as well.
we record. Yeah,
cool, man.
Exactly. Yes, thought I'd just put it there, just to tease you with it. But no, this is a
classic Flexo. This, isn't it?
Yeah.
Muggins over here looking for years for this thing. Sixo puts it on Twitter, and within 30 seconds he's got it on his overnight shipped to him or something, hasn't he?
What can I say, man? It's this is how
all
it
of
happens.
posters.
All of posters. They just gravitate towards me. So no, I just got lucky. I couldn't believe it, honestly, when someone got in touch and was like, "Oh, I've got a copy," and I was like, "Brilliant!" Do you know what I mean? Great, absolutely terrific. So it's the poster that I had on my wall as a kid. So I'm just dead excited to see it again. Brings back a lot of memories.
Yeah, I had that too. It's an amazing poster.
Well, I shall keep my eyes peeled for one for you, Liam, as well.
Thank you.
This podcast has its pluses and minuses. One of the minuses, I have to say, is that if we haven't bought something we talk about that we end up liking, there are a selection of collectors and listeners who will get there before us, and that's it. It's just vanished.
Oh God, it's gonna have to just poster now, isn't it? That's the end of it for
me. That's it. But on the flip side, you've got what happened to old Flexo here, where someone's actually turned up and said, "I've got this. Do you want it?" And I've had an occasion like that this week where someone popped up and offered me a couple of items, and we've talked about them in recent episodes, and I've just been like, "Really?" And I'm so excited to show you these things when they get here. But so it's got pros and cons, have to say. Got to take the good with the bad, but the bad is really not that bad.
No, I was going to say bad in the sense of toys is never really that bad, is it? Like, it doesn't get that bad. So are you not going to share with us then what these items are?
Yeah.
No, I have learnt the hard way not to do that.
Such a tease. Such a tease.
So I have mentioned things that I was gonna buy, and I might have said that I had actually bought them when I hadn't yet, then forgot, episode aired, sold out, and I'm still left here like a mug having said I bought something and I don't have it because everyone else bought it because I told them where to get it.
Didn't you tease that over multiple episodes as well?
You did.
I did, but it didn't work out.
Is this the new one of that then?
Yeah, it's not far away, so I'm just going to keep my zipper shut. But I just wanted to point out that, yes, we do miss out on stuff. Well, I went and bought a Micromaster Overload, freaking sharpish, after that Hidden Gems episode, man. We were on air recording, and I was checking out Overloads on eBay because I knew I needed to get there quickly. And I did that at least. That was a result. But I think that's how it's going to go. So depending on what you guys bring up tonight, might have to just have an eBay window open at the same time.
You say that we miss out on stuff. I mean, speak for yourself.
Sorry, Flexo. Didn't mean to knock your public image there.
I'm only joking. I miss out on stuff too. I do, though. I do. All the time. Happens all the time.
So, and just a quick note to any future listeners out there who are going, back for these old episodes. If you've already listened to like episode 50, where Maz has told you that he didn't end up getting these toys for some reason, well, this is the origin story of that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of tonight. Actually, I'm quite intrigued to see what you guys come up with in terms of old retools and everything. So it's actually a real kind of favourite sort of area of mine. This, I mean, I love repaints anyway. I know that's sort of a bit sacrilegious as far as some people are concerned. I don't know. You get people that are like really vehemently anti
cornerstone of the
repaints.
brand.
I agree. I totally agree. It's always struck me as like a weird position to take, where people are like, "Oh man, they're milking the mold. I hate repaints. Oh, Hasbro and all of that," because it's like literally the franchise is built on repaints, like Seekers and.
It's like not liking other flavors of crisps.
Liam, he makes a really good oath, doesn't he? Hasbro.
Oh, God.
Oh, Hasbro.
Well, he is the BFG, so
Big flexing giant.
Oh, God, yeah.
I'll take that. But anyway, before we get to that, we should probably mention our sponsors for the evening, because we have two. First of which is tfsource.com. So do check them out for all your Transformers and third-party needs. And the second is kapowtoys.co.uk, UK supplier of Transformers and many other toys. And we'll be doing a longer section on both of those in the middle of the pod, as ever.
You should also check us out on patreon.com/triple takeover, where you can get extra content if this isn't quite doing it for you and not filling the gap. You can get early access to episodes up to a week early. You can get exclusive minisodes on topics chosen by our Sixo's Butler patrons. And also sometimes we chuck in some episodes as well. You can get mini-series access, which are chapters on a single topic, whether it's Sixo reading IDW or me collecting Unicron Trilogy. You can vote in polls. You can sort of have a say in the content that we deliver. You can just sign up and say thank you. And you can have questions answered on the pod, amongst other things, and even free merch if you sign up at GBC level. So check us out on patreon.com/triple takeover if you want new content every week.
And we recently did a mini-sode on Deathsaurus. And, we talked a bit about the cost of that and how it hits just before Christmas. And as Christmas is coming up, if you need gifts,
Seamless. That was what a conversational segue that was.
Got to tell you, lads, I've been on the blower to old Saint Nick this week. It's been ringing me up, telling me how snowed under he is at the minute. So many people on the good list. He's got so many presents to do. So he's like, "Oh, Liam, can you help me out?" So I was like, "Dude, trust me, I've got your back. Have you checked out our merch store?" He's like, "Yeah, a few times." He's like, "But you need a reminder of the address." So if you go to rebel.com/people/triple takeover/explore, you can get the perfect Christmas gifts. Everything from aprons and them little square things you put cups of tea on.
Coasters.
Mugs. Yeah, that's the one. That's
Maybe he means a table. I don't know.
Well,
Right.
Santa doesn't like people leaving like a little peppermint ring on his table. His coffee books.
Peppermint ring on his what?
Yeah. He's got them proper books, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, check out rebel.com/people/triple takeover/explore for all sorts of triple takeover merch.
Holidays are coming. Holidays are coming. Holidays are coming.
So this episode is all about retools. So before we talk about our choices, because that's what this episode is, we've each picked two different toys to talk about. We should probably talk about what retools are, because it's quite a wide ranging term, isn't it? Because you've got retool, repaint, and then you've got things like just shared engineering.
Yeah.
So what specifically to you guys constitutes a retool?
Well, I think for me, it's like it's any toy design that is essentially the same and uses a lot of the same parts, but it also has newly molded parts. So it's, a straight up repaint is one where there are no design changes whatsoever other than the color and the paint. And, that's it. That's a repaint. A retool involves some sort of molding change. However, I would say it's different to what you said about toys with shared engineering. The best example of that I can probably think of offhand is like the original mini-bots, like Bumblebee and Cliffjumper, which are not retools of one another because they have shared engineering, they have similar kind of design going into them inherently. And, there may be some similar parts in there as well, but ultimately they are not a retool of one another. They don't, do they actually even share any parts? I don't think they do.
Arms, probably.
I think even the arms are different actually on Cliffjumper and Bumblebee.
Rear bumper?
Yeah, maybe.
Do they have the same back?
Head plate? Yeah.
I think it's an interesting conversation
I would
about.
have called that a retool, actually. I think I've been calling it a retool for years.
Have you? See,
Wow.
I do not class
Oh,
them
yeah.
as retools. Never have done. And I think there's a kind of interesting point about what percentage of new parts kind of goes into a toy design before it isn't a retool anymore. I mean, or until it's a new thing entirely. I mean, like I always quote the one about Masterpiece, Inferno, and Grapple sharing literally 50% of parts with one another. So very, very heavy retool. But, people still refer to them as repaints even. So these things do get a little bit, there's a bit of crossover there, I guess, is what I'm saying. But anyway, in my brain, that's how I kind of sort of distinguish them, if that makes sense.
It is a very loose term because then you also have running changes, don't you?
Mhm.
Which are different to retools again, because, we often think of retools as it changing a character from one character to another, but you get all sorts of kind of little changes.
Good point.
Yeah.
Like you do get, this is a bad example, but say Sound Blaster and Sound Wave, the heads are the same. It's just the only thing that's changed is the chest, isn't it? It's widened.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just get new features added rather than a change of character or change of head. It's a very broad term.
Yeah, you see, I would still class Sound Blaster as that one. I would class as a retool, I think, of Soundwave.
I don't think I'm with you on that one. I mean, as in, I agree with you on the Sound Blaster and Soundwave being classed as a retool, but I'm not sure I would draw the distinction in the same place you have, because I think I'm not going to distinguish that much between shared engineering and retool, because I think if there's enough shared engineering, to me, that's the definition of a retool. It's basically the whole thing functions the same, literally the same, but all that's changed is the physical shape of the bits that move. So if anything,
Yeah.
like with Cliffjumper and Bumblebee, they don't even transform differently. Like with some toys, I'm thinking of like classic Sunstreaker and classic Sideswipe.
Yeah.
Like they are retools and they kind of transform differently, but I think you can transform one the same as the other if you wanted to, right?
Well, let me give you another example. Like for me, there's two actually that I can think of. The first is Energon Starscream, which is technically a shared engineering toy of G2. What's the little chap that comes with Dreadwing? Smoke Jumper.
Smoke Jumper.
Yeah.
Smoke Jumper. It's shared engineering in the respect that they transform the same, but they have no molded parts the same. And a lot of people, I think of it. Oh, is it a retool? Is it a repaint? It's not. They're completely separate toys. They've been designed differently, but they have shared engineering in the respect that they've got the same transformation. And as you said, almost like Cliffjumper and Bumblebee to some extent, but they are separately designed toys. So it's a shared engineering thing.
Yeah, that's a distinction I can agree with, because engineering, I think, doesn't need to refer to physically the same innards.
No.
Size and shape and look, but it's the same design concept being remapped on a different toy. But with something like Bumblebee and Cliffjumper, I think it's like entirely similar internals and design at the same time, just with a different shell on almost.
So where would you stand on the jump starters then, or like the battle chargers?
Battle Chargers I would call a retool, because it's just, I think it's the shell again that's different.
Yeah.
So it's a reshell.
Yeah, I guess that's another phrase, isn't it?
Yeah.
Reshell.
Yeah, reshell.
Jump starters?
Do you know, I don't think I've ever owned a Topspin and a Twin Twist at the same time. But
Shocker. Really not?
Wow.
Really?
No, I haven't. I don't think I have. I think that would, again, qualify as retool, because won't the internals be pretty much identical, and it's just the protruding bits that are molded slightly differently, like the head and the bits and pieces?
See, to me, I'm with you. It's interesting, the distinction, because I'm with you on the battle charges. I think of that as a retool of one another, because I think there are probably some parts the same. Like, I'm sort of trying to look over the room at the two of them.
Is the mechanism the same on those?
The mechanism is the same on those two, yeah. In the same way that the mechanism is the same on all the throttle bots. But the jump starters, I don't know, maybe at the core of it, maybe in the same way as you said, like about Bumblebee and Cliffjumper. But to me, it's sort of, they're so different. Like the complete shell of the actual robot is different. So for me, I'm not really too fussed. I'm not like, no, you can't call them retools. But I sort of, in my brain anyway, think of them as slightly out of that sphere.
When I look at the battle charges, I think the most important part of those toys is the sliding bit, at the bottom, and the mechanism.
Yes.
And so that's like the base of that toy. And then the rest of that is just a shell that fits around it. So I think you could do any kind of car on the top, and they're both basically the same. So I do think that would probably constitute a retool.
Yeah.
Again, it's a loose definition, isn't it?
It's all
weird how
really
it
loose.
applies to different toys completely differently.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think all of this is, I mean, really, it's all shades of grey, isn't it? And I'm certainly up for calling Bumblebee and Cliffjumper a retool if that's where we're all at for the purposes of this discussion.
I was just thinking of the throttle bots, and I was thinking, hang on, I think I'd draw the line and not call those retools of each other. I think for me, I'm beginning to see that the distinction might be that with a retool, you could start with one, and you can tell that the retool was made from that original.
Right.
And then maybe that's closer to what you're defining. Because I'm looking at Goldbug and Freeway and thinking, well, I don't think Freeway was made from Goldbug's basis, just they were made at the same time with that shared engineering, which is extremely close with a different shell. But maybe it's just my eyes telling me that these two toys look too different to be classically defined as a retool.
I think that's it. I mean, ultimately, like going back to Bumblebee and Cliffjumper, I guess if one of those two toys looked radically different to the other, but still transformed in the same way, let's say that they looked as different as Freeway and Wide Load, perhaps it wouldn't be such a kind of confusing issue in that regard. We might be more happy to kind of think of them as separate toys. But I think it is kind of more of a mental thing, like how we sort of position this stuff in our brain as opposed to like a scientific definition or anything.
Do you think some of that's come from because in very recent years, obviously retools have become really prevalent, particularly in generations, almost since the start, where it was just a head. So when I think of retool, the very first thing that pops into my mind is change of head.
Yeah.
Even though it's more than that, that's always be the first thing I would think of. I think that's now what retools are seen as generally, aren't they?
100%. I think it was Mark Mayer, the Hasbro designer, that recently was talking about Galaxy Shuttle coming from that Astro Train. Was it Siege Astro Train toy? Yeah. And he said that, I think he went into the archive or whatever and discovered that this head had been designed for that toy. And that actually a lot of what they do now, apparently, is that they design second heads for these toys when they go through the design process, purely with the feeling that, hey, we'll probably use this design again further down the line and whack a new head on it and it's a new character. But I think it's fascinating actually to go back to G1 because we didn't really do that. We didn't really get that back then, did we? And actually looking at the list of retools for this discussion, I was really struck again, as I commonly am, at how few repaints and retools there are in Generation 1. It just wasn't a thing so much at the time.
Which is funny when you think about like some of the most iconic characters there. It's like the Datsuns. When you think about like the retools there.
Jets.
It's like you look at Prowl and Blue Streak, I'd call that a retool, but Prowl is basically Blue Streak with a light bar, isn't he? It's not the same with Ratchet and Ironhide. Like the only real difference is that one's got a light bar stuck to the top.
Yeah, and that's enough to classify it as a retool. Yeah. Just that one tiny change, the light bar, retool. It's not actually a straight up repaint.
I've heard people refer to those as repaints of each other though, regularly.
Yeah, 100%. But like Grapple and Inferno, again, technically retool, not repaint, but people still call it a repaint, of course. I don't think it really matters. I'm not looking to get too pedantic about the language or anything. It's people call them what they want, really.
In light of the last 20 minutes of what we've been talking about.
Oh, absolutely. All first impressions of this discussion aside, I'm actually fairly chill on the subject.
I was just thinking then about, just before we move on from them, it's when you're talking about Prowl and Blue Streak and sort of the light bar, and it's really funny to think in Generations now, they are just repaints almost, because the light bar is a separate piece that pegs into a gun or something like that.
That's true.
So it is now just with a molded piece. And what you were saying about the heads was interesting as well, because I was thinking about that, because they've done that pretty much since the start of Classics, haven't they? Like it used to be in Universe and Generations, you would look in the instruction book to see what the alternate head was, and you might never see that on a toy, but they always said they sculpted an extra head that was in the mold for a future reuse that may not come to be. It's just the way they did it.
I think that's a fascinating indictment and sort of sign of the times of how toy engineering has evolved and how they've got cleverer with this stuff as well. And just, how much more, let's be fair, how much more kind of budgets have become a factor in decision making and things. But yeah, it makes sense, if they're going to go, through the process of designing a new toy, why not just come up with a new head for it there and then and have a bit of forward thinking about it? I think it's very clever.
Well, they did it in Diaclone as well. If you look at the very first release of the Fair Lady toy, which was what we know as Blue Streak now, its styro had space for the spoiler of Smokescreen and the light bar of Prowl. So they went into that knowing that they were going to do multiple versions of that. And so the styro fits all three. And we had that with Transformers G1 too, where you get the bubble that's shared between those three Datsuns.
Yeah. That's clever.
Yeah, so retool, very broad.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, retools.
It's like people mistake retool and repaint so often. And obviously we have the Combiner War Silverbolt thing, which just now dominates everything. The shared engineering. Like
I'm every Silverbolt. It's all in me.
Yeah. What I find really funny now is that genuinely I believe that when a new mold is unveiled by Hasbro or Takara, fans online are honestly looking at it going, what toy is that then? What's the mold? Where's it come from? Is it Silverbolt? Who is it? Do you know? And it's just this sort of really funny thing that we've got to go through. It was really exemplified for me by that holiday Optimus Prime, because obviously I posted pictures of it online, and immediately it was just inundated with replies going, oh, it's Motormaster, it's Legacy Motormaster. And without anybody having seen this toy in anything other than the blurry photos that
That you
shared,
took.
I'd taken,
Yeah.
and they were very blurry because I was taking them of a massive screen at Comic-Con, and people are already deciding that it's a retool and all of this. And then what's brilliant is that the guys from Hasbro were like, it's not a retool, it's not Legacy Motormaster.
It's a schooner.
Yeah, it's a new mold. And still you got people going, it's Legacy Motormaster. And like I've had people already in the last couple of weeks when I'm like, no, they said it's not Legacy Motormaster. People are like, oh, well, I'm sure it shares some engineering and things like this. And it's like, they've said it doesn't. They've literally said it's not. But people don't believe it. And it's just kind of funny.
You can't trick these people, man. They know better.
Yeah.
It's an incredible thing now that, like you say, with this, as soon as someone sees a new toy, they look to see what it is.
Yeah.
Thinking about this episode tonight, I was reminded of when Titans Return Chrome Dome, when he came out. And I don't know if you remember, but the first thing people looked at, they saw the engineer and went, oh, it's a retool of Combiner Wars Dead End. And then for ages, like Silverbolt, that was the thing. Every time there was a car, it's always a retool of that. Yeah. Again, very broad definition of a term.
Yeah, indeed. So we've all picked some retools?
Yeah. So who wants to go first?
Handing over to Flexo first.
Oh, okay. Over to me, is it?
Yeah, go on. Get your major flex out the way.
Yeah.
Well, do you know, I feel a bit like I've not got a leg to stand on now, because I said what one of my choices was earlier, and you were like, oh, it's such a flex and all of that. And then I was thinking about what the other one is, and that is a little bit of a flex too, but it's unintentional flex. Honestly, they just happen to both be retools that I think are really interesting. So the first one I was going to mention is a Generation 1 thing, and it's Great Shot, because this toy is, I mean, it's stunning, first of all, but it's a retool of Six-Shot, which I'm sure people will be familiar with the concept, even if you're not a Generation 1 collector, because the same thing happened in, Legends and Titans Return later on. But this is the original, and I think it really stands out for me for several reasons. And aside from the fact that it's a great-looking toy and all of that, mainly because it is a retool at a time when we just weren't getting that. And yes, we've got examples like the Datsuns and the Seekers and things like that from Diaclone days, but post 86, sort of 87 onwards, repaints, retools, not really a thing like at all in Generation 1, like very, very, very few and far between. And here's this toy from Victory, which is, as I say, a retool of Six-Shot, but it still feels entirely unique. And I think it's fascinating to me to see it in action, because it's not that different on the grand scheme of it. It's really just like a new head, a new chest. He's got some new little, like, I don't know what you'd call them, like bits on top of his arms, like cannons, and a new beast mode head. But pretty much everything else is the same. The 6 modes and everything are the same, apart from it's got a rhinoceros instead of a wolf. But it just feels so different in hand. Maz, you're a big fan of this one, I know.
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as I learnt about it, Six-Shot suddenly faded in brilliance when I saw this thing. I think it also helps that they changed the faction and the color palette completely to the most Autobot palette ever. That was such a huge part of what made him stand out. And they took a masked face, which is very Decepticon, and they gave him a really heroic humanoid face. And they made him look massively heroic with the world's greatest phoenix tattoo on his breasts. It's bombastic how different he is from Six-Shot. They just, even if it was just colors, I mean, there are releases of that, I think even in third party, that maybe don't change so much between the Six-Shot and the Great Shot. Like you get a WST version, which is just a recolored Six-Shot WST. It still has such a great effect. Yeah, I think it's as much the colors as the retooling. And the addition of that chest piece, I think, is the most major thing for me. Not the extraordinarily phallic rhino horn, which is hugely phallic, but I think it's the phoenix on the chest and the colors which do all the work there.
I think you're absolutely right. It is the colours, it is all of that. I think the fact that it's got very different stickers as well really kind of helps to differentiate it more than actually, you might get. I mean, even things like the kind of stickers that run along the arms by the treads are different, and the ones on the knees are different. The ones on his little wings on his chest are completely different design. So it all helps to kind of build a very different look and feel. The colour palette, obviously is kind of red and blue instead of this sort of classic Decepticon look to him, the kind of green and purple. But even then, past that, you've got a lot of yellow on Six Shot. He's more of a brilliant white as well versus the kind of off-white on Six Shot. So all of it adds up, as you say, Maz, to just really make it feel a world away from the original toy. And actually, I'm saying that there's not that much molding difference between them, but even actually the kind of bits around the hips and the kind of main body that's cast in red, that whole body piece is a newly molded piece as well. So actually, there is quite a lot of retooling here. It's really just like bits like the arms and the legs and kind of the crotch piece and the wings, I guess, that are the same. There's a lot new as well. And I don't know, for me, it's every bit how retools should be done.
I think you've actually hit on the greatest Transformers retool ever with your first choice. I think I'd be hard pressed to find one that does a better job of elevating a mold, which was already superb, to absolute godly status.
Well,
Changes the mold completely.
Yeah, you can't top it. It cannot be topped. I think it's number one.
It was the first one that sprung into my head, I think, other than like the conversation about Bumblebee and all of that. I remember getting this toy in hand, and Maz, you helped me out with it. I remember because you found one, spotted one, and were immediately like, dude,
you must own this. It's glorious, top tier Transformers.
It was one that I genuinely couldn't believe I had in hand. I mean,
Same. I still feel that way.
Yeah, just taking it out the box and just it was firstly the fact that it was mint AF and just pristine white, which is just always things like this when they arrive, you do have that slight dread when they're in shipping, thinking, oh god, I really hope it's not yellowed. It didn't look yellowed. I hope it's not yellowed, and it just isn't. So it's brilliant. But I just had such fun with it, honestly. And besides a slight sort of trepidation about transforming it or whatever, just because it's old and all of that, it's just glorious to behold. The colors are magnificent. The rhino head, I think, was the real treat actually for me. Just seeing that kind of flip out and how different that mode now feels to the winged wolf. It shouldn't be such a change, but it is.
That's when a retool really works, when it sells you on being a completely different toy, a different character. Was Six Shot particularly popular in Japan? Because I know he was quite a main character in Headmasters, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I see it pop up so much on the second-hand market. And also it was reissued.
I was going to say.
Multiple times. So I think so, absolutely.
So do you think that's the reason why they would have gone to this sort of length to retool it and re-release it?
Well, they went and did Quick Switch as well, but they didn't originally have Quick Switch in the Takara line, so maybe that was a completely different reason why that turned up in Master Force as Six Knight. But yeah, I mean, for a toy that was released and was in media to then be retooled and released, what is effectively 2 years later? Yeah, it's 2 years later. 1989 was when Big 3 was released. Yeah, it must have been a good seller.
It's the same character as well in the fiction. It's supposed to still be Six Shot, in case you weren't aware of that. But he's kind of undergone a lot of changes and become a good guy, basically. So, which I always think is quite interesting because they don't seem similar at all. But if anything, it kind of has that Unicron trilogy vibe to me of like, characters being upgraded and like changing their color scheme and everything, but still being the same character.
It's definitely an upgrade.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's all the chrome and everything as well, as you said. And the fact that it's gold chrome on the chest, silver chrome on the wings, the rhino horn, and other areas as well. It's just absolutely beautiful. And I would say that I know, Maz, you would put Great Shot above Six Shot. To me, they're just a fantastic complement to one another.
Yep, agreed. Again, never owned both at the same time.
I've never owned either of them. I've owned modern versions of them, but not the original toys. I really would like to get a Six Shot this year.
You must get a Six Shot. It's a legendary G1 toy. It's one of the best, in my opinion.
Great fiddle former.
So do you think Six Knight is Great Shot's son in the same way that Quick Switch is Six Shot's son?
I don't believe so, no. But I haven't, done a DNA test, parental test or anything like that, so can't be certain.
It's not a lot of Six Knight DNA left, is
Yeah, right.
Basically, anyone called Six is related. Are you related to Six Shot?
cannot confirm or deny. 6 shots, 6 night.
No, he's related to Metroflex.
Yeah.
All the 6 combiners.
Here's a question I've always had. Is there a relevance to the Phoenix thing on his chest? I know, like, Trax obviously has the flames on his bonnet and stuff, but on Great Shot, it's so pronounced. It's such a iconic part of that toy.
He always felt like the original Firebird from Brave to me. There's so
Yeah.
many similarities to the Firebird in Brave.
That's one of the things about Great Shot I've always felt is it doesn't feel instantly like a Transformer to me because it reminds me of Brave. And when I first discovered Great Shot, it was when I was learning about Brave as well. So I identify it more like that, even though it's not related to that. But that's what it looked like to me, more in common with that toy line.
Yeah, it is very Bravey.
And then, of course, Brave got a retool of the mold as Shadow Maru. So they
love that, don't they?
Yeah,
with his
that's
Ninja
true.
Stars. That's a great retool. That's a great retool.
He comes with Ninja Stars.
He does, yeah.
Yeah, he does. Having said that, Great Shot is quite Bravey, but actually I'm just flicking through some Mile photos and just reminding myself, and he also looks great with stuff like Victory Leo and Six Night as well in their animal modes. You know, and so even stuff like the monster bots and things like that, it all works. That's the thing. I don't know, it is different. It has its own distinct look to it. It's definitely a world away from traditional Transformers, but it fits in terms of what Takara were doing at the time.
Wow. Definitely Six Shot is on my list of things to get. Great Shot is a distant dream of a toy to own, but I have a third-party one, the MMC version.
I loved that. Yeah, that was a great toy. Grandest Hexatron, wasn't it?
Yeah. Our good friend Santiago Jones gifted me that version. Comes with giant swords.
Great toy.
Does look nice. Well, come on then, Maz. If you're not going to take Great Shot, what's your one going to be?
I actually will go for a very common one that was talked about in the fandom loads, which is the Thrilling 30 Sandstorm from the Thrilling 30 Springer. Now, Springer is already like one of the most popular Generations toys of all time, but I found Sandstorm to be even better. And that was a reasonably heavy retool, so it went from being the Springer-like car to having two whopping grey wheels at the back.
That's what sells that toy, is them wheels.
Yeah,
man.
it's the most ridiculously misproportioned dune buggy you've ever seen. It's almost like those old bicycles, you know, with the enormous front wheel and the tiny rear wheel. It's like that in reverse. So his car mode is massively different like that. And I found it fit together better than Springer did as well, more flush. And then instead of having a helicopter mode, it's got this incredible VTOL sort of mode, a vertical takeoff and landing thing, with the wheels which then go horizontal and become the VTOL engines. And it's just madness. And of course, those wheels then play a massively prominent role in his robot mode. Kind of not unlike that Diaclone Tri-Rambler with the wheels on his shoulders. And all being orange as well, and it doesn't have the wheels at his ankles that Springer does. He just looks so different as a result. Obviously the same base mold, like really unmistakable. But they just took that design, and I believe it's Nick Roach's design actually, that Springer, and they turned it into something entirely different, which suddenly appealed to me way more than Springer did. And I bought Springer after Sandstorm for mold completion, but the Sandstorm was spectacular and actually an incredible toy. I brought that one up because I think it was one that was discussed a lot at the time. It was a very widely loved retool of an already very widely loved toy.
Yeah, I've never owned it or handled it, but yeah, I've heard a lot of people talk about this toy over the years.
I still have it, and it is a fantastic example of a retool because they go to such lengths with it. Even the gun is different, and that's not something you see very often, particularly now. Normally the guns are just left as they are, but every part of that toy feels different. And the car mode, I think, is way more successful than the Springer version because the Springer one always looks awkward with the bonnet. It seems a bit stretched. It just looks a bit like a duck car. It doesn't quite... it doesn't... I don't think they could quite get the comic design down, so it just feels a bit compromised.
Cannot unsee that now.
Not just a duck, but a rubber duck is what it looks like.
It's like one of them things you get in London. You know those duck cars that go in water at the same time. Yeah,
duck tours.
Woo!
Yeah, mainly in Windsor. Actually, you get those. I will say, but yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Man, I'm just looking at it now, and I'm like, oh my god. Firstly, I looked at the robot mode and the helicopter mode, and I was like, wow, this toy looks great. Maybe I'd be interested to, pick it up at some point. And now I'm looking at that car mode, and I'm like, bloody hell, Liam. Totally ruined it.
That was the sacrifice, that mode. They don't get Nick Roche's design for that at all for the car mode, but the helicopter and robot are fantastic. But Sandstorm, on the other hand, is the exact opposite of that, isn't he? 3 just great modes.
Yes, 3 great modes.
And the fan mode wheelchair that people often do with it as well.
Oh, God, yeah. I totally forgotten about that. It's a great toy. I'm just looking at it now thinking, I'd love to own that again. Thank you, Triple Takeover podcast. But it is a really good toy. I remember going on the UK thread on TFW 2005. I was in Iceland and the store here, Nexus, used to stock a lot of modern Transformers at the time. And I got on there and I said, they've got these thrilling 30 toys. Here's a list of what they have in stock. What should I get? I just want to experience a new Transformer. Nearly all unanimously said Sandstorm, and they were absolutely on the money.
Nice.
Yeah. It's got an amazing head sculpt as well.
Really does, yeah. Very Sandstorm, like cartoony Sandstorm.
Yeah.
I just think his overall silhouette is so different from Springer. It just makes him almost more of a presence.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed when, and this is no spoiler at all for you, old Flexo, but when he turns up in More Than Meets the Eye, he's in like one panel and he's just so beautifully drawn. You just think, yeah, that's a perfect realization of that retool. And I'm really glad he made it into fiction with that body type in that one scene.
Interesting.
Did we ever get Nick's designs for Sandstorm? Because I remember in Records, you see him very briefly, he looks very different. But I always wondered what he looked like, what his different modes look like.
I don't remember.
I've got to tell you, this toy is appealing to me quite a lot.
I'll take some photos. It's amazing.
It just looks superb in all 3 modes. I love the massive wheels. Love the kind of VTOL thing. I think it's super clever how those wheels are used in every mode. Love the kind of, as you said, the kind of tri-rambler thing in the robot mode. Colours are great. Head sculpt looks amazing.
Have you seen the Takara version?
Oh, man.
That's nice too, but it's a lot more orange. It doesn't have the blacks and stuff.
It tries to lean more to G1, doesn't it?
Yeah. I should also say, though, Springer is a spectacular toy already. Yeah. That Springer is no slouch by any stretch. It's just Sandstorm was so much more interesting.
Yeah.
And a really successful retool to still be on the market at the same time and be like, now that's a must buy, even though I've got the base mold.
I think I'm going to have to check one of these guys, if not both of them, out at some point, only because, I mean, that Springer is just legendary, and I've heard so many people talk about it so much over the years. Feel like with a slight foray into kind of the classic sort of chug-ish era that I have kind of, dipped my toes in, let's say, I feel like it would be a shame to not give it a go at some point. So who knows?
Of course, you have 2 other options. You've got the Cloud Rodimus, which is blazing.
Yeah.
It's so lush based on the Springer mold. So there's a Rodimus repaint, which is out the park nice. And there's also the Botcon Battle Trap, isn't there? Which is also based on the Springer mold.
I wish they'd have released that more widely.
Yeah, that mold has had 4 epic releases. So really spoilt for choice on which one you pick.
Man, they all look good. Just Google Cloud Rodimus, and of course the third picture that comes up is one of M.A.S.'s. Right there.
I bought that to the pub to a PubeCon on the day I bought it. But really great toy. But I'd say go Sandstorm first. Ooh,
yeah,
great toy. Must own it again.
There's one of your pictures here of the 3 of them together, Springer, Sandstorm, and Rodimus, and kind of seeing the appeal. Got to say.
I ended up with the Sandstorm for free, and I still don't know why, because I ordered it from Amazon US, and they just randomly refunded me the money like a month after it arrived, and I've never figured out why.
People just love giving you toys, man. Like, honestly.
See, you've really annoyed me by telling me about that picture now, because I'm looking at that picture now thinking how much I'd love to recreate that.
Well, there you go.
Damn, they were good toys. That was a period of time where it was just about discovery for me. I was just buying loads of toys that weren't G1, lots of animated, lots of this kind of generation stuff. Yeah.
I still remember when that Springer first came out, when I first got it, just holding it for the first time and looking at it going, I can't believe they've made a toy that looks as cool as it did, and how comic-like it looked.
Yeah.
It's just so different from anything else.
There's also an LG Sprung version of that Springer, which is even more green and yellow.
Yeah.
That's worth checking out too. That's a really pretty version. I think that would be the one I'd buy if I wanted a Springer again.
Oh, wow.
There's a platinum one, isn't there? But there's a very shiny platinum one.
That's loads, actually. Now I'm thinking about it, they really milked this mold, didn't they?
Yeah, they got their money's worth.
Wow. I'm down the rabbit hole here with these guys, honestly. They all look fantastic.
Definitely the one to go for is Springer. And the thing with the battle trap.
No, Sandstorm. That's the one to go for.
Sandstorm. That's what I meant. But not what I said. But with Battle Trap, I think the thing that always like frustrated me about that was the fact that we then got the Black Shadow, which we've talked about. It's like that could have been Flywheels, and we could have had Battle Trap. The two
Oh,
molds to
wow,
make them
yes.
were right there. And it's like obviously you got the Botcon Battle Trap, but it's like man, we were so close, dude. It was so close. My choice, my first one, is Ectotron.
Aye.
I don't know if it even classes as a retool. It's hard because it's such a
Yeah.
unique toy and it's so different. For anyone who's not familiar, it's the transform that turns into the Ghostbusters car, into Ecto 1. But it is, at its core, it's Combiner Wars Onslaught.
Silverbolt.
Yeah.
I remember these conversations
Yeah.
at the time it was released.
But there were people who thought Onslaught, and Onslaught also came from, oh my god, this was the time.
PTSD.
But this toy, every part of it is new except for the thighs.
Post-traumatic Silverbolt. D.
Oh,
Didn't want to say
oh
the
god.
D.
There we go. That's what it will be now. But yeah, this toy, every part of it is new and it transforms differently. And the way it turns into a car is so clean. There's a few panel lines, but they're very well hidden. Like the way it splits it is hidden by the seam of the bonnet
Yeah.
and stuff like that. It's very minimal. Like the side of the car, if you look at it, is not broken up by tons of extra parts because it's basically a shell. It just splits into like 4 different parts.
Yeah, it's a great toy. Honestly, I have the Ectotron version. I've never handled Onslaught, but I really like it. I think it's not perfect by any means. It's a little bit fiddly, but honestly, in terms of when you get it into that Ecto 1 mode, it can't be beat. It's just great.
That is one heck of an alt mode success there.
Yeah.
It's astonishing. Like I can't figure out how they've done it. Like to get that car from that base mold. Like it's so different.
It is actually a retool, though, isn't it? I've heard this many, many times, but people have kind of debated it and whatever. But it is genuinely a retool of Combiner Wars Onslaught, right?
The thighs and the elbows, those are taken from Onslaught, but everything else is completely new. All the parts, the way they transform, all completely different.
Does it qualify then? Like, does it not just have similar forearms because that's the piece they had lying around?
But that's the thing with that and the thighs. They are the exact same parts, but very specifically from Onslaught. If it's not a retool, why would they have used those and not just done different ones? They surely just want to have tons of those parts or running off those parts on their own. Where did they draw the line with this mold? How did that happen?
Yeah, the design process must have been quite the thing. I'd love to know how it came about, when they were like, right, because it was the first collaborative effort as well, wasn't it? So I'd love to kind of have been a fly on the wall with the meeting where they're like, right, we're going to do a Ghostbuster Transformer, right? And it's going to be a wholly new toy. And then someone in that meeting was like, hang on, lads, what if we threw in the thighs and elbows or whatever it is of Combiner Wars Onslaught just to save a few quid?
Well, think about it. It's the only parts they could get away with doing that with. Everything else is completely recognizable, and they couldn't use an old head. Like, you can't stick Onslaught's head on there.
No.
That is the only parts that no one can say, oh, that's not accurate to the original material, because he never turned into a robot. So they could totally get away with not having to create new molds for those parts. And like you say, save a few bucks.
But then how would they have run those molds off, though? Surely they wouldn't just run off parts of a mold and then create whole new molds for the other parts.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, but all those separate parts wouldn't have been on the same sprue, would they? So maybe the arms and the legs for those Combiner Wars toys were on the same sprue, so they come as a set. Because I don't think the entire toy comes...
No, it's not all one thing, because,
No.
it would be in different colours and whatever. But I don't know. I'm just looking at the Onslaught design. It's a weird one because the arm bits and the thighs aren't even in the same colour. They're not cast in the same colour, so it wouldn't make sense for them to be on the same sprue even.
But they are the same as Hotspot.
Right.
There's a couple of shared bits, but it's mostly different. You know, maybe just those parts were done separately for those toys.
It's fascinating. It really is. I was just gonna say, Liam, as well, just to point out that you're Googling Ectotron just now. Your picture of him is 12th.
Yeah.
On Google Images.
The best day of Christmas.
Right.
But the thing that fascinates me about this is, with so many retools, the transformation is the same. So much of the toy is the same or familiar. Whereas here, like, you can see it if you know, but like even the way the forearms are sculpted, it's a completely different part. Nothing about it transforms any way similar. But then if you look at Onslaught's vehicle mode, there's not much there to begin with. So I suppose it's quite easy to turn into something else. But if you look at Ectotron's chest and his waist and stuff, they're completely different. But at the same time, you can see like the DNA of it, if you know what I mean. Like the shapes are similar.
Do you know what I want now? I really, really want a G1 Ectotron made out of G1
Yes.
Onslaught.
Do you want the entire cast of Transformers made out of G1 Silverbolt too?
Yes, I do. Yeah, all with those weird can't stop a pig in an alleyway legs.
Yeah.
But I just think it's just crazy. Like, so often, like we were saying earlier, like when you think of Retool, you think of small things like heads or little bits like that. Then you've got like Great Shot, who's completely different, and you've got Ectotron, which is just this whole different toy to get completely.
Yeah, this is like the opposite, isn't it? It's like if they've, normal Retool is like, let's change their head. This is like, let's change everything except the thighs.
Does it even qualify as shared engineering then?
I don't know. It reminds me of like, the RoboCop reboot that they did. Have you seen that? The rebooted one? It's a bit pants actually, but there's a scene in there, isn't there, where it's like all the bits that are left of him that are human that they bring up, and it's like, I don't know, like half of his head or something, and then like a lung and like something else and like a hand, and that's it. And it's pretty gross, but it kind of reminds me of this in a funny way.
Not just bolt it onto a combinable silver bolt and make it
Exactly.
RoboCop out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think with this, it's just incredible because I think with Six Shot and Great Shot, they are both great. And so many of Retools, like we talk about Smokescreen, Prowl, they're both fantastic toys. But here, Onslaught and Hotspot are, I'm quite an apologist for combinables, but even I would say they're really disappointing on their own, like the vehicle modes. But this toy is completely different. You're like, this is just fantastic. It's one of my favorite toys. It's nice to see a mold redeemed in some way, or,
I liked Onslaught.
I liked his robot mode. His truck mode, I don't know, it's not really much of a truck there, is there?
I'm looking at pictures of it and I'm not sold, fair to say.
But also, where's Ecto 1A? Where is the Ghostbusters 2 Ecto car?
Well,
Why haven't they done that?
Yeah, they did an Afterlife one, didn't they?
You just added dirt to it.
Yeah. Well, it had I think that had a retooled head, didn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, actually it did. I think he's wearing the goggles, isn't he, rather than them being over the top of his head.
Yeah, the goggles are down, which is cool. But yeah, and a bit more kind of dirty or whatever. But yeah, it's just really cool. I thought it was brilliant, actually. And I like that it's kind of got a bit of cross appeal with MP10 GB as well.
Yeah.
I thought it was really cool. The two of them look great together. So yeah, fantastic choice.
The Transformers will return after these messages.
Right, well, it's that time for the bit of the pod where we talk about our sponsors. And of course, we're going to look at tfsource.com first of all and see what they've got in stock, up for pre-order at the moment, see what catches your eye, talk about it a little bit, the huge. So what's caught your eyes tonight then, lads?
I've got to say that fourth train bot in their banner is still very much catching my eye, but I spoke about that a couple of episodes ago.
Yeah, you did.
But I think it's that pre-order for the HasLab Deathsaurus, which is... Yeah, I guess it's strange for me to see it on the website for pre-order because I'm thinking of Victory Saber and Unicron and how it was just strictly through the crowdfunding that this market would have received access to that toy, and it's just...
They were on stores as well. I think some stores had them.
Oh, were they really? Okay, I didn't remember that.
Well, it wasn't available in certain parts of the world, was it? Like Hasbro
Yeah.
Pulse or the crowdfunding thing. So
Okay.
Well, like in the UK with Unicron, of course, it was Kapow that was the official stockist,
That's
wasn't it,
right,
of Unicron?
actually. Absolutely right. Yeah.
For example, because the crowdfund then they hadn't opened up to much pushback, I think, so they did a deal with Kapow to kind of have it brought over here. But yeah, I was surprised to see it on TF Source, but it's good. Presumably all the numbers go towards the crowdfund. So
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about the toy extensively in our mini-sode, so I would just say, yeah, Deathsaurus would be my choice. It's the first thing that caught my eye, other than the train bot, again, when I went to TF Source.
yeah, well, it says everything about it because it's just literally a grey prototype still. So if it caught your eye on there, then it's doing something right, isn't it? So Liam, how about yourself?
mine is a very obvious one, and it is Holiday Optimus Prime.
I knew you were going to go for it, man. I knew you were going to say it. I picked it as my choice, and then I was like, but Liam's going to say this one.
I was hoping you'd come to me before you picked yours for this reason, because it's like they made a toy for me. It's glorious, man. It's fantastic, and there's no way it's not going to be the future combat hero Optimus Prime at some point.
Right.
Yeah. I love the way that everybody says it online, though, where they're like, hey, guys, do you think that they might make a hero Optimus Prime out of this? And it's like, rewind the discussion back 3 weeks, mate, honestly. Do you know what I mean?
Just hear me out.
Yeah, exactly. So what's appealed then on this one? Is it the candy cane weapon?
Weapon indeed.
Dude, it's Christmas. It's Christmas. It's just wrapped in Christmas, man. Look at it. He looks like Santa. He's carrying a candy cane.
I can't look at it. I can't look at it any longer. It's so bright.
Yes.
It's very bright.
Like a bauble.
I can see it. I can tell it's on your screen right now because you've just illuminated your entire room.
I've gone bright green. It's for the spirit of Christmas. But it's like the gorgeous green windows and his eyes. They're green. And they just look really nice with the
I like the green.
shiny blue head.
Yeah. Hey, you were saying Combat Hero Optimus Prime. Are you talking about the G2 unreleased colours that they're going to do it in, like, as opposed to the Sure Shot, which was...
Well, that was so the Sure Shot was Hero Optimus Prime.
Yeah, okay.
And then the blue one was Combat Hero, as you say,
Right.
which was never released. So slight point of technicality there. Order.
Oh, I appreciate the correction.
It'd be super cool to have the unreleased colour. That would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be mega.
It's beautiful deco.
Generation Selects, because we had the white and green Megatron, didn't we, as well? The white and green tank Megatron. And Sandstorm, the jet one.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Stands to reason they would do it.
And I think it's licensed. Is it licensed? Because it looks like
It's
it's got the
licensed.
Volkswagen logo.
It's licensed, yeah. It does have the Volkswagen logo. It's a licensed Volvo truck, which a lot of people are, of course...
Volvo, sorry, not Volkswagen.
Yeah. A lot of people are taking as a sign of this being the Amazon Prime collaborative toy that was mooted at one stage, because that was supposedly going to be a licensed Volkswagen. You got me doing it now as well. A licensed Volvo. So a lot of people are taking that as a sign that this was the Amazon Prime crossover that never was, and now it's been repurposed for this. There is just one thing on this toy that I want to draw your attention to. Actually, two things that I think are very cool. One is the white cuffs, which is perfect Santa placement.
Yes.
But the other is the belt buckle.
Yes. All of that is fantastic. Like the little white stripe going down his chest as well.
Yeah, for sure. Just the belt buckle makes me laugh because of the placement of it. I mean, it's on his crotch, so it's kind of not immediately obvious that it is meant to be a belt buckle. But it's a neat little detail.
Can I just also draw your attention to the Autobot badge with the Santa hat on?
Yeah,
of course.
Cool. Did you not think the sides as well with the red paint looks like blood streaks? So it's kind of a bit...
Yes. Someone said that. It looks like he's actually mowed down a load of people.
Holidays have come.
It's full of tarp on the inside of the trailer.
It's the Nemesis repaint, honestly, just with blood-soaked Volvo. Yeah, I think the only way this could be more of a Liam toy is if it had pizza wheels.
Maybe that's what goes in the trailer.
Cold pizza wheels.
Yes, cold pizza wheels for breakfast.
Yes.
Christmas pizza with candy canes on. Peppermint. There we go. Christmas again.
Do you know they do a candy cane Pringles flavour?
Yeah, I've seen it. I've not tried it yet.
That's mad. Anyway, Sixo, what's your choice?
Well, I would have possibly gone for Holiday Optimus Prime. I'm going to pick one of two new 3-0 efforts. So they've done a Revenge of the Fallen Megatron, which looks really, really good. It's actually the MDLX Rodimus Prime that's really caught my eye. Just think it looks amazing. Absolutely amazing. Clearly very Studio Ox inspired. But, they've, for me, already done a great job with Bumblebee and Optimus Prime. Really love those. The Megatron, I don't have in hand yet, but it looks incredible. This Rodimus, for me, is the best looking of all of them so far. Just think exceptional design to it. Can't wait to have it in hand. Looks like it's super posable. I genuinely spent a good sort of 5 minutes or more looking at the promo pics earlier. His little assault rifle thing that he's got with him and everything. And I was just like blown away by it, totally into it. These, I don't know, small little toys from 3-0, so not like the full, well, even the half scale ones, the deluxe ones, but really kind of great fun to just pick up and play with and pose. I know not everyone's going to be convinced because it's non-transforming. I don't give a stuff. It looks amazing. I want it.
Looks so much like DX9 Carry to me, and that was a great aesthetic.
Yeah.
It looks amazing. I would love to see like what it would transform into if it did. Like the Space Winnebago mode, because you look at the design elements and then you're like, it would look really neat and cool. It's got obviously slightly different ones, but his face to me reminds me of Hot Rod more than Rodimus, and I quite like that.
Yeah,
juxtaposition with his body. This is kind of cool.
Yeah, there is an element of Hot Rod to him as well. Definitely. I'm just well into it, honestly. He's just, I can't say enough nice things about it. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Right, well, why don't we mosey on over to kapowtoys.co.uk, UK supplier, and take a look at what they've got in stock there. So what we're thinking on their site, lads.
Well, I'll go first then.
No, you won't, because you're going to pick what I'm going to pick. And I'm not. No, yeah, well, you hold on to yours. You never go first, all right? You're second. Get in line.
Let's change things up, man. Let's do something new.
All right, fine, you go first.
Okay, so I'm going to pick Transformers Generation Select Magnificus.
You.
Ooh, yeah.
Defeated.
Were you going to choose that one then, man?
Yes.
What? I had no idea.
Magnificent choice.
Oh, God. But this guy looks amazing. And I'm not really into black repaints that much, but I think this looks really nice. I love his faceplate, like the toy.
This is not like a classic black repaint as such, though. It is a black repaint, of course, because it's a repaint in black. But I don't know. I don't think of it. It's not like a Nemesis repaint as such, is it?
It's pretty much the same, though. It's black, grey, and red. The standard black, grey, and red colours of all the bad versions, isn't it?
I mean, I can't dismiss your logic. I got to tell you. But no, it does look really good.
Well, this is the original colour, of course, isn't it? Of that
Yeah, it is.
original toy.
Yeah. If anything, the red one is the red repaint of the black one.
Right.
No, it looks really, really good. Like it. Yeah. Perceptor in black. What's to go wrong? I just like the fact that he's kind of like an evil scientist. I think that's really cool.
Mean science.
Yeah. Bad science. Bad.
No reason for that to be funny at
The
all.
bad boy of science.
Yeah. Just coming out with all kinds of alternative facts.
It's like shattered glass Stephen Hawking. That's what
Right.
it is.
Exactly. What about you then, Maz? If you can't have Magnificus, what are you going to go for?
Right, I'm going to pick an item that Kapow have on sale because it's something I've always come very close to buying. Then I saw it at your gaff and I thought, well, I really have to own this. Hasn't happened yet, but it's the Masterpiece MP39 Plus Spin Out, which they have for $84.95, £15 off. And £85 for that toy is absolutely spot on because it is glorious in both modes. Crazy transformation, which is probably just teeters on my limit of complexity and involvement while still being fun to do. And it's got the toy head, and it's the first ever Diaclone car, and it really does sing in red, and it's got all the really cool toy details like the shins with all the molding there. Yeah, that's quite tempting.
It would look great with your reboost and your crosscut and those guys.
It's quite funny you should mention those. That when we were deciding for what we were going to do for our repaint choices, I was going to first of all pick Reboost over Skids and then Crosscut over Reboost. But no, Spin Out would be my choice. I mean, just look at it. And I did look at it, and it is every bit as pretty as you can imagine a red Masterpiece Contash today would be.
Feels like one that you should own at some
Yeah.
point. Very Maz toy.
It really is.
Well, for me, I'm going to be a little bit boring. I'm going to pick another 3.0 thing, but it's the MDLX Gold. I was going to say Gold Bug, but it's not. Just Gold Bumblebee, they've called it. Just literally the Bumblebee in gold, but I'm kind of into it. Looks cool. Fun little toy. Love the original Bumblebee mold, and I don't know, the idea of giving it another go in gold. Why not, eh?
Wait, so is this the second 3.0 one you've picked?
It is, yeah.
So if you add those together, you get 6.0.
It's all coming together. I was just laying that down as like a really subtle little clever thing there, Liam. No, yeah. So yeah, I think this thing looks pretty good. So I'm into it, and they've got it up for pre-order at the moment. And I don't know whether you've got the Bumblebee or not. I just think it looks like a really spiffing little thing.
Well, I held that at your house, and I thought that was a really nice little toy.
Still talking about Bumblebee, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Just checking. Anyway, that's a little word from our sponsors. But yeah, do check them out at tfsource.com and kapowtoys.co.uk. Thank you very much to both of them. We love them. Go check them out right now.
We now return to the Transformers.
Okay, so now it's time for our second picks. And as you went first the last time, Sixo, you get to go first again.
Is it me again?
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm going to hit you now with another one that I know Maz is going to say is another flex. Wasn't intended to be. It was actually I think this was actually the first one that came into my brain. I think I said that about Great Shot, but this was the first one that came into my brain. And it's a subtle one because it's actually not got a ton of retooling past the head. I think it's maybe just the head, but it's BotCon Motormaster. And this is, of course,
Animated
a retool.
Motormaster.
Animated, yes, should specify. This is, of course, a retool of the Voyager class Optimus Prime, animated Optimus Prime. And it was really funny for me because I got this just recently, and not long after I first experienced the Optimus Prime design, which I picked up at TF Nation this year. And there's, as I say, not a lot of difference between them. New head. But for me, it's a perfect example of how a color scheme change and a new head can just make all the difference. And it doesn't feel like Optimus Prime when you're handling it. That's the thing. So it very obviously is the same design, and it doesn't look like necessarily Motormaster traditionally, because it's got like the chest windows and things that you would associate with Optimus, but it still feels like its own thing. The two don't cross over to the sort of extent that you might imagine that they would, just given that it's got, a new coat of paint or whatever. So I really respect it for that. And I think sometimes retools don't work in that way, and this one just really does.
It is a gorgeous looking toy. That whole set is fantastic.
It really is.
But could I just check then? So do you consider this a retool then because of the head?
Yeah.
Because I just thought with the BotCon heads, were they not done separately? Like they ran off the original heads as the toys, and then they made the heads separately, then just pulled them off and then put them on.
I'm sure that's true, actually, and I guess in that's sort of another argument, I guess, isn't it, of do you consider that a retool or not, or whatever,
Yeah.
given that, they've just swapped out a head I don't know. It falls under retool for me because in terms of the release, it's an old mold but given a bit of new tooling.
I'd call it a retool as well.
Right.
I assume somebody would be thinking that,
You're playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate the challenge. It's an interesting one. Yeah, for me, it's definitely a retool. And as I say, I think it really is just the head. Honestly, like I'm looking at them and sort of struggling to find any other differences between them. I don't think there are. But even the paint job makes quite the difference.
Yes.
To the two of them. I mean, I think it's the fact that some of the placement is different as well for sort of where the colors go and things, which is always a good sign in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like it always kind of helps to differentiate two molds. Two releases of the same mold. So, because you've got that very sort of pronounced stripe along Optimus, for example, the kind of classic stripe. Whereas on Motormaster, you've got little stripes at the back and the kind of circular crosshatched Decepticon logo, which looks really cool. The colors are just so different as well. They just feel like two very distinct toys.
This is a stunning example of like how much paint and just a new head can do to give it a different life. Because often when you get a retool, people will say, "Oh, it's just a new head; it's not its own mold," and they'll view it as the original character. But this just goes to show like how much that can do to completely just transform the toy. Transform.
Yeah, 100%. And it really is just that different, honestly. And I suppose it says everything that, as I say, I got them just really within a couple of weeks of each other, maybe a month in with the same month or whatever.
Did you get this first or Optimus first?
Optimus first, yeah. And I already love the Optimus design. And it's always been a tough one with me for animated because, obviously a lot of these designs, a lot of these molds are really held up as like these legendary things that people just love. It's got such a kind of, a bit like, More Than Meets the Eye. And obviously we're looking at that with fresh eyes now, the comic. It's the same for me with animated where, if you came to this and actually you didn't like them, people would be a little bit like affronted by it almost. They'd be a bit kind of like, what? And I love the cartoon anyway, so I really didn't want to be disappointed by the toys. And thus far, every single one I've handled has been a real thrill, a real treat. So I was almost a bit nervous going into like the first repaint retool. And this was the first of the set of 5 that I checked out. And I was just blown away by it, honestly. The new head is just perfection, honestly. And if you're going to jam character into a toy with a head sculpt, this is how you do it.
Just completely agree. It's one of the 5 or 6 animated toys I never owned. And that entire Stunticon job set is an exercise in how to do repaints and retools right.
Yeah.
Every single one of them stands out on its own.
Yep.
Yeah. Honestly, you could have just picked the whole set, really, and they're all remarkable. I guess I thought of this one because it's the one that I own both versions of the mold. Whereas the other 4, I only have the Stunticon versions. But I, have looked at sort of pictures, comparisons, and things, and yeah, you can see the sort of how great they all are. But this is the one that really stood out for me.
The common argument here, of course, is that they don't combine into Menasor.
Oh man, yeah.
It doesn't matter, does it? If you take the toys on their merits, you get these stunning toys as like compensation. They stand on their own. They don't need
100%.
to combine all the time to be a great toy.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would actually say that this is like, in a funny way, a lot of I don't know. It wouldn't add anything to them if they did combine. It would be fun, I'm sure. Don't get me wrong. Like it would always be fun to see an animated Menasor. But by the same token, this is like the ultimate Stunticon set, and they're just great as they are. They don't need to combine.
I do wish this had got a retail release.
Yeah.
As nice as it is being a BotCon exclusive, it's just so pretty. It would just be nice for more to own it because it is that beautiful.
For sure. It was one that I didn't necessarily have on my radar, and obviously it's really kind of starting to spike quite a bit now, and the opportunity came up.
It literally walked into your house, didn't it?
It did, yeah. Good old Sid that, is a good mate, and, we're all sort of friends with. And yeah, he brought it round, and what can I say? Couldn't say
Left
no.
it there.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. He very much did.
Such a flex that Sixo no longer finds the toys.
Yeah, they
come to his house
find
and find him.
Just come to me. This is it.
Well, he built it, the museum, and they're all like coming now.
I built it, and now they will come. Yeah. It was quite funny because he came round with like several other tubs. Honestly, it was like he set up his own little dealer table on my kitchen table. It was quite funny. And I was just going through. There was like loads of animated, loads of stuff, and he was like, "Well, let me just show you this as well." And I was like, "No, enough." But yeah, this was a good one to walk away with.
You've expanded the gift shop then.
Exactly. Yes, very much so. Right. Come on then, Maz. What about you?
Yeah.
Well, very much in theme with what you just said about how much a paint job and a new head can completely elevate a figure. And this is a cheat because this came to mind immediately for me, and this was the original intention for this mold, but they released a different character first, which was a very Titans Return thing to do. So I'm choosing specifically the Legends Octane, or Octone as it's called, versus the original first release Titans Return triple changing Optimus Prime. Same mold. It's got a tanker truck mode, it's got a passenger jet mode, and a robot mode. But the degree to which Octane and then Legends Octane wore that mold better is just astronomical. Of course, it was always meant to be Octane, but even so, as Prime, it was interesting, and I really enjoyed it. The colors were right, and Prime suddenly had a jet mode that was pretty cool. Really fun toy to handle, but the LG Octone is just spectacular. It was such a beautiful Generations toy. Really, really pretty. Great colors, gorgeous head sculpt, fantastic transformation, great modes, all three. Massive recommend from me. And there's no wonder it is spiking in price now as the years go by.
I have the Hasbro version and I love it. But what I love about the LG version is the way they changed the color of the reverse of the truck nose, so it turns into Starscream sort of pylons, doesn't it? They're red.
Right, because it also comes with an extra Ghost Starscream head that you could put on him. It's that I totally forgotten about the red pylons. Great shout.
Yeah. It's that kind of playfulness with it. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Is that what the little minifigure is with it? A little Ghost Starscream?
Well, it comes with Octane's head,
right,
which then turns into a headmaster by itself. But then it also, like a lot of LG figures, came with an extra headmaster too. So some of them came with a Target Master and a Headmaster. This one came with the extra Ghost Starscream head, which was great.
Oh man, I've just seen a picture of the head. That is super cool.
This is where we were getting like Bullhorn and a Clouder and all of those kind of guys, wasn't it? All packed in with the LG toys. But yeah, Octane is great. That mold is just really nice. And of course, they turned it into Ryu from Street Fighter.
They did, didn't they?
That is true.
Yeah.
They did. Yeah, it's looking really good, actually. I've got to tell you, I don't know, the Optimus version is not one that would have appealed so much to me. I don't know, but I can really see the appeal with Octane.
Okay, so you say that, but have you seen the amount of people that have turned it into Action Master Optimus Prime?
No.
Yes, so I don't know if Toy Hacks do it, but someone did a sticker label set specifically, to go over the tanker, so it looks like his Action Master vehicle.
No.
But then the robot mode, they changed the colours, and they gave him the guns as well, and it looks amazing.
Well, that I need to see now.
But they also did it in G2 colours, didn't they? I think that came in you remember the box set? It's either Chaos on Velocitron or Rumble in the Jungle, or whatever the other one was called.
Right.
God, I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, it was Chaos on Velocitron and Siege on Cybertron.
There we go.
And yeah, there was a Laser Prime version of it. Of course, there was the Black Convoy version that was Takara Tomy Mall. No, it was the Tokyo Toy Show exclusive, and I had that too, which was also very pretty. But I think Octane trumps them all, the way it owns that mold.
We got all three of them, didn't we, at that time? We got Astro Train, Octane, and Blitzwing. But each of them are retooled from other toys. Well, except Astro Train, I suppose. In fact, all three of them, I think, are the original intentions of the mold, obviously, aren't they?
Yeah. We had Sentinel Prime before Astro Train, and we had
Megatron.
Yeah, before Blitzwing.
But even when you look at Megatron, you see Blitzwing, or the molding, other than the chest, is Blitzwing.
It's so funny, because if they'd done it the other way around, you would have been just like, what a weak repaint that is.
Yeah.
You made Megatron out of Blitzwing? No, why didn't you give us Overcharge? But doing it this way around was genius, really.
And it really works, because that's a nice toy as well.
Yep.
The Blitzwing mold is great. But yeah, really Octane, fantastic.
Oh, it's a really solid choice.
I just remember thinking it was really pretty, and it was a really fun toy to transform, and it looked amazing in photographs.
It's got a presence, definitely got a presence. And stickers. The Hasbro one has a lot of stickers.
Yeah, actually, the Prime had stickers which were terrible.
Yeah.
Really terrible.
I think Toy Hacks did a set that matched the G2 trailer way more closely.
I've just seen pictures of the Action Master one. By the way, the Toy Hacks set is really, really smart.
Oh, where's that? I need to see it.
It's cool, isn't it?
I've seen the G2 one, and that is super cool. And actually, it's funny because when I look at the Optimus toy, it almost looks like Power Master Optimus Prime, something about it. But I've just seen a picture of it next to the G2 laser toy, and it's perfect for it, honestly. It really works as well. Particularly with the trailer and everything. And I see that there's, you can get some stickers for it and everything. That looks great.
I've just linked you to the Toy Hacks page on the Action Master version in the chat.
Oh, let's have a little look. Oh my God, that's perfect. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Has it got the guns?
It does. It's got the little orange smokestacks and all of that.
Yeah.
How cool is it that the Prime's headmaster was called Diac, and it's got a little silver head like a Diaclone driver did?
Yeah, that's cool.
So much cool stuff going on in that period of Titan's Return.
They did that with all the heads, didn't they? They all were little references to other
Yeah.
things. Like there was the Battle Beast one. I can't remember where he came in.
Yeah, that was on one of the, I think, Hasbro Pulse sets. I think it was either the one that came with Grotusk or... Yeah, I think it was the one that came with Grotusk, turned into Little Battle Beast dude.
It's amazing how the first version of the molds are completely different and not characters you would associate with any of those molds. Maybe Optimus, but they are all great anyway.
Yeah, they are.
The Sentinel Primes are even really nice, the bright orange one.
really
And in
is.
fact, I like it more than the Astro Train.
Agreed. Yep.
Is this what people would call, do you think, a pre-tool then?
Yeah,
Because
100%.
obviously the Optimus, I'm guessing people figured out, okay, this is going to be Octane.
Yeah, especially as it came out at the same time as Megatron, who was so obviously Blitzwing.
Right. Okay.
I think it's the way to get the money out of the mold first, isn't it? Is to put the first versions out as something,
Yeah.
the ones they probably wouldn't buy first if it was the other way around.
But, I don't mind that. I see people get really angry about that, actually. Like, Hasbro, and all of that again. But
The oath, yeah.
Oath so.
He should have his own bit called Grind My Gears.
Right.
Go off on one.
Oath so simple.
But people do. People get angry about toys, don't they? Children's toys. But to me, it makes total sense. Why wouldn't they want to do this thing where they release the popular character first and then get you to buy the one that you really want? It's just business, isn't it? It's fair game, as far as I'm concerned.
Especially when the pre-tool is Optimus Prime,
Right?
versus
Exactly.
Megatron. It's pretty good thinking.
Yeah.
It's also adds flavour to these characters, isn't it? It gives you something new. Even if you don't buy it, it's something that exists that you can look back on another time ago to see the different versions and always new someone. Like my brother has the Megatron version. I think it's the only Megatron he's got. But whenever I pop around and I see it, and I'm like, wow, that's just really neat.
And you just said the really crucial thing there, which is you don't have to buy it.
Yeah.
Which is always worth remembering. You don't have to buy it.
Well, that's it. Like you see Optimus there and you're like, well, Octane's going to either be wave 2 or 3 then, isn't he? So
Yeah.
it's fine.
Great choice. Great choice.
So I almost picked, because of the topic and the proximity to when I got it, I was going to pick Galaxy Shuttle because I got that from our lovely sponsor, Kapow, this week. And that toy is actually really nice in hand. But I went with Unite Warriors Computron. Technically, it's 5 toys. I'll give you that. But it's such a great retool and this fantastic shining example of what Takara would do, when it came to like Unite Warriors and stuff. Because it is nothing like the Hasbro toy at all. Like most of the molds are different and the retool on the same molds is completely different. There's almost nothing in common. It's bizarre.
So wait, it's a retool of Computron.
As Computron.
Yeah.
That's bizarre, man.
It's more of a competing Computron, isn't it? Because they released them both like in a similar time.
Computron.
Competing Con.
But they both went their own way.
Well, he's called Computicon by Takara, isn't he? That's his actual name in Takara.
Right. Liam, Google Images. Yours is the 7th picture, mate.
Oh, man.
Is this going to be a league that we're going to run? Is that some kind of
Exactly.
extra competition here where Sixo can flex about how his pictures come at number 1? We're like 7 and 12.
No, I haven't seen any of my pictures on Google Images tonight, so it's all yours.
Oh, maybe he's getting relegated then.
Yeah, exactly. Down a league? Is that how it works? I don't know. I don't care.
Sixo learned sports again.
Loosely.
But yeah, this set. So Hasbro released a really disappointing box set, which was just a lot of repaints, and it's not great. But it did come with Scrounge.
Scrounge, yeah. That was worth buying it for.
I think it was a retool, wasn't he? Because he was Cosmos, but he had his own head.
Yep, it was brilliant. The Scrounge was fantastic.
But the Takara version, they went to this whole nother level. So they created an entirely new mold for Strafe from the Blastoff mold. That was an entirely new mold they created for Bruticus, obviously, which was their own thing. But at this point, they were just doing this obsessive thing with cartoon accuracy, weren't they? But this Computron set is so much fun. Then Hasbro Nosecone was just Brawl, which is not very good. The Takara one is, do you remember Combiner Wars Rook?
Yeah, good toy.
So they retooled the heck out of that.
Yeah.
Just gave him this crazy drill that splits into multiple parts and all sorts of different pieces. Gave him the tank treads and a new head. All of them got that. And it's become one of my favourite toys I've ever owned because it's just so crazy.
Now, this reminds me of a great story, this whole thing. Do you remember at TF Nation when Kit Ticknap bought Combiner Wars Computron and he was in the lift talking about how much he liked it, and there was another dude in the lift as well, and when the lift reached the bottom floor, the other guy mumbled to him, "It's not as good as the third-party version," and ran off, and that has irritated Kit for years because he didn't get a chance to retort.
Didn't get the last word.
No.
That's how you get the final word in with Kit, is you trap him in a lift.
And run
And
away.
then you say what you want, and then you bugger off. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm just looking at pictures of these two, the Hasbro one and the Takara one. I can't get over it. It's just mad.
They used the scatter shot, and Hasbro released a separate scatter shot, and then they also used it here. But he's got a new chest piece, got quite a few different bits.
So what bits are actually reused? Because it just looks like a totally different toy.
There's still a few bits that are shared, because a few of them are still Silverbolt. But yeah, there's all sorts of different bits that have changed, but things you wouldn't expect.
It was Silverbolt all along.
But it goes like that all the way through. It's just a crazy set of toys. Like, obviously they used the Wheeljack mold for Lightspeed, whereas Hasbro just used Streetwise, and just painted it really badly.
One thing I'm noticing is, did the Hasbro one actually come with the proper feet? Or is that an
No.
add-on thing?
No, I think the Hasbro one came with unique feet, like actual hands and feet.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. And I'm looking at the Takara one, and it has more like the gun feet, the earlier Combiner Wars like Superion, and
It does, yeah.
that's weird. So do people mix and match them to get like the perfect Computron?
I have seen people do it, but I can't see any of the Hasbro ones that are as nice. Like, I've seen people say they prefer the Hasbro Strafe, and I just assume they have no eyes, because why would you say that? But there are a few people I know like prefer the Hasbro Afterburner, because he's got more of an orange to him, whereas the Takara one, it leans more to the red. It is orange, but it looks red, but it's not.
I'm intrigued by this. Honestly, I think there's a lot to kind of get into with this set, isn't there? Just how different they are.
I love the bike on the shoulder of the Takara Unite Warriors one, because it just reminds me so much of Street Hawk.
Yes.
And it just looks like the Street Hawk bike.
But like the Hasbro one, they gave him a weird green windscreen. It's an odd choice, but the colours there's just something about it that just seems off.
I do kind of miss these days, of Takara and Hasbro just going off in different directions. I get from a kind of brand perspective, synergy, all of that.
Nice to have the option, wasn't it?
Yeah, I still miss it. I must admit, and going back through Unicron trilogy and all of that, I kind of love the differences that you get with some of these toys, and looking up what did Takara do and all of that, and like Beast Wars and everything as well. I really kind of miss it. Particularly from a kind of collector perspective, there are times where it's a pain in the bum, but there are also times where you actually end up with two amazing toys for the price of one, and
Agreed.
like Beast Wars is a great example, because they didn't sort of do the same characters necessarily all the time. Even they just took the Hasbro mold and did a completely different color scheme and everything on a lot of their
Talking
designs.
about Beast Wars again.
Stick the panpipes in.
There's the panpipes, yeah.
Drop the beat. Yeah, I don't know. I just find it fascinating. And now it's all the same. But hey ho.
I just kind of miss being able to look at two different toys that are functionally the same, but they look different.
Yeah.
And then being able to discover there was a different version of it that I'd never seen. It's kind of a shame, isn't it? That's lost.
Yeah.
Do you miss picking up the Hasbro version and thinking, oh, that's great, and then a few months down the line seeing the Takara and going, I should have bought that one.
Should have waited.
Yeah.
But the fascinating thing with this is they came out around a similar time. It's such a strange thing. I think they were revealed like on the same weekend, because it was that time, remember, when they were doing all the leaks.
Which you love.
Oh man, big fan. This was why.
Big fan of leaking.
If I remember rightly, I think the Hasbro one was being leaked like a half of the picture at a time, like a little quarter of it or whatever.
Right.
But then I'm sure there was a Tokyo Toy Show, and there was one Hasbro where it wasn't leaked. People just took photos, and these were, I think, were on the same weekend or something like that. It was announced. But the Takara one is just a wicked toy as well. There's so much playability with it.
I do prefer the look of the Hasbro feet, I think.
Yeah. Those things, the Hasbro feet are cool.
Yeah. That's why I think people mix and match to get the perfect mix of the best parts.
I could see that. Looks great with the Abominus as well.
Yeah. And they gave him a new head as well. Give him a different Computron head. Because obviously the other one, Hasbro one, just has the Silverbolt head.
Oh, it does.
So as a Computron fan, you're very well catered for.
Yeah. I love it.
And you get a scrounge.
Yeah, I didn't bother with that one.
I can't believe they just repainted a face-plated Superion head. That's mad. I hadn't even noticed that.
The whole thing is like that. It's the Hasbro one just feels like a real disappointment. The more you look at it, the more you're just like, oh, there's not really anything here. But the Takara Strafe and Rook, you can give Rook the drill hands.
Yeah. Strange colours on the Hasbro one.
Yeah.
Looks like a test shot, doesn't it, in places?
Yeah, it really does. Just the colours don't mix, like the red on the Lightspeed with the yellow on the nose cone, green.
It's the green, yeah.
And the kind of pinky red on the chest. Weird.
That's what I was trying to say about the Afterburner, is I get why people prefer the orange, but then you look at the rest of it, and like the colours don't blend. It just, that one use of orange on the windscreen, you're like, that's all right. But then the rest of it doesn't quite line up with it, like the green and the other stuff.
Nah, Red Street Hawk wins. Red Street
Yeah.
Hawk absolutely wins that.
The thing is, he is orange. It's just a very red orange. You can only sort of see it in hand. You're like, oh, he is.
Yeah.
Bloody cartoon, I think that's what it was going for.
Bloody cartoon. Gonna get Liam started again now.
Don't start with that scale chart.
Right. Great choices then. Okay. So what's that? 6 and done? 6 amazing retools.
For sure.
I've definitely learnt loads from this discussion.
Yep. This is something we can revisit in the future, definitely.
Yeah, well, if people want us to, then absolutely, I'd be up for doing another round. As when I got into this, I was like, oh, hang on a minute. Here's 5 or 6 other legendary toys. I've got at least one more big flex in me as well.
Just one?
Yeah.
I really enjoyed your list of them in the chat thread when you're like, here are my 2, and it just kept going down like 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you're like, oh, no, I'm definitely going to pick these 2. But
It's
then
like his
I'm also thinking of
articles,
this one.
man.
Yeah,
It's
just
like
kept
his
going.
top 10 articles with the 15 honourable mentions.
Here we go. Here we go. Anyway, retools.
Done.
Excellent.
I can say for sure this time, that's definitely some of our favourite retools that we've talked about tonight. I think it was a great selection on all fronts. And yeah, I think there's definitely more ground to cover because there are so many others we could talk about, and we will do in the future.
Look forward to it.
If you've got any you think you'd like to tell us about, you can always find us on social media. But we've also got Patreon, haven't we, Maz?
Yeah. Do you want more? Do you want more of this? Well, you can get more of this at patreon.com/triple takeover. How much more is entirely up to you. You can just say thank you for £1 a month, or you can join the crowds of mans in pigs. And you can get you can get men's in pigs and women's in pigs. We had some of those. You can get early access to episodes, and then there's Inner Beast level, which is where access to our incredible Discord server begins. And then you've got the ability to ask questions. We're going to answer a question just in a moment. Then there's Sixo's Butler and Goldbox Classics, which can commission mini-sodes on smaller topics, which we will then deliver every 2 weeks. At Goldbox Classics, you also get a free piece of merch for signing up. It's a one-time thing. And on top of that, you can listen to our mini-series, which are ongoing chapters about a particular topic, whether it's IDW or Unicron Trilogy or Fiendish Feet. I've said it now, you have to do it.
You have to do it now, Liam.
Oh, I can't wait to do Fiendish Feet.
But we have a question from Dugatron, which is, what toy or toys were you not a fan of when they first came out, but you now absolutely love? For example, as a child, I was very nonplussed by Pretenders, but as an adult collector, I really appreciate them, inner bots and all. How about you guys?
Good question, Big Doug. I think it's very difficult for me to not think of Pretenders as well, because as a kid, I genuinely not fussed. Like I was really, I'd say a bit anti. And now I love them. Can't get enough of them. So yeah, that's probably the ultimate one for me as well. Maybe to an extent, Action Masters as well. I don't remember vehemently disliking Action Masters. I think I did have a bit of fun with them as a kid, but it's really as an adult that I've kind of come to appreciate them a bit more.
I think for me, it's things like Scramble City combiners, because I was never interested in them as a kid. And even as an early adult collector, doesn't that ever just sound like we collect adults? It does, doesn't it?
An adult collector.
In my early adult years of collecting Transformers, I didn't really care much for Scramble City combiners, but now I own quite a few of them, and despite being very similar, I find them all absolutely fascinating and brilliant toys, including Superion, who's pretty much my favourite of them, I think. And I really wouldn't have blinked twice at that even 10, 12 years ago.
I'm going to also say, I'm just going to throw this out there, but to a certain extent, MP5 Megatron as well. Like, like, don't get me wrong, I still think it's a bit ridiculous, and let's be honest, it's a bit of a crap toy. But there's something about the gold one that really won me over by the end. Just the sheer audacity of that toy, just the blinged out ridiculousness of it. There's something I kind of came to quite like about it, and I miss it now. I find regularly when I see pictures of MP5G, I'm like, do I need that again?
Well, after the bit we did on it, I mean, you got to own it now.
Yeah.
Such good memories of that episode.
And I feel like it's such a statement piece, the gold one especially, that I'm almost like, yeah, maybe. And I recall it going for very cheap, so I don't know, maybe. Probably isn't now. It's probably worth ridiculous sums.
I'm probably going to go with Quick Switch, which I had as a kid.
Great shout.
I didn't hate it, I was just never keen on it. It just didn't feel like the Transformers I remembered or liked at the time. It felt very different, and it was so square. It just didn't quite land with me, so I was never keen on it. But now I love it in a completely different way. Like I really,
Square in every mode, isn't it?
yeah. Even his head is just a
It's
brick.
just different shapes of square. It's really
Yeah.
funny.
It's a square boat. It's a square Puma thing and a square jet. And
I love that toy. I completely agree.
I love
Yeah.
it too. I love it too. I love the way he can kind of run.
kind of.
That's so true.
Kind of got a bit of articulation about him.
It's like a Rubik's Cube that holds guns. It's
Yeah.
basically what it reminds me of. But as I've got older, I've grown to really like it, and now it's a favourite. I love the drill tank. I think that's the one mode I liked as a kid, to be if it was a drill tank.
Solid choice.
Yeah. Great question, Big Doug. Thank you very much for that. Does he even know that we're calling him Big Doug?
Just trying to make it stick.
Oh, I thought you were saying Dig Dug, like the game. Do you remember Dig Dug?
You can call him Dig Doug if you want.
Well, that's what he's going to be called now.
I thought it was Big Doug, like, Big Dog, but Big Doug.
Or we could just call him Dougatron like he requested and pays us money to be a patron and what we call him.
He's got himself a free nickname. It's all good.
Speaking of shout-outs, another benefit of being a Sixo's Butler or a Gold Box Classic is that you get a shout-out on the show. And yes, this list has grown again. So hang on to your hats. Big thank you to Nick, Danny Roberts, Andy Preston, Chris Spiderfather, Adam Shoemaker, Matt, Stephen Perkins, Bad Saturday, Justin Messiah, Dave Dowden, Paul Giocazzi, Yusuf, John Pearl, Troy, Anthony Cars, Alec Mir, Captain R.A. Phil G, Jack Pelletier, Road Storm, Stuart Webb, Amar, Laserbeak, Puma the Hunter, Vegemite Mike, Peter Hammerson, Shenry, Chris Norris, Jesse Moreno, Jackson Harwood, Nexus, Jim Owen, Aaron Swoboda, TF Starfire, Billy Gator, Andy Gold, Cold Squall, Simon Elvin, Josh Misha Kid, Michael Cagle, Cracktastic Plastic, Devastator, Jeffrey Freeg, Nice Sideburns, Andy Inbound, Lee, John Wood, Carly Wilmot, Tim Banerjee, Campbell, Ben Lewis, Shinsei, Lucas Henkel, Morris Koenig, Malcolm Hobbs, CNC, Rick 56, Will Bates, Mythic Gears, Zach Lawson, Jason Murray, David Shepard, Esteem, Dougatron, that's Big Doug, Quick Mix, Josh Bell, Ashpolt, Zindios, Christian Hyatt, Mark Addy, Graham Bentley, Andrew Bentley, Graham Moffat, Connor C, Die Brave Sid, Burke Perotta, Unchrasmatic Ball, Juan Carpenter, Eric Hoyt, Bobby P, Mike Loyacono, Nihar Bat, Tyler Husky, Chris Rodwell, Alicia aka Alicia Tron, Steve Redmond, Fart Warp, Shawnee Sean, Jim Kinsey, Shanty Siegel, James Pascoe, Ghost Prime, 4 Big Balls, Jickle, MK Tronic, 7 the Chronicler, and our new ones. I'm going to have to say this right because I met this gentleman at TF Nation and he taught me how to say his name. Robert Walter, the Triptychon guy, the legend.
Wow.
Charlie Chappelle and the Mapes brothers, who you might recognise. What a list!
What a list.
That's a great list.
I'm pleased we've got Mr. Triptychon on.
Robert.
That's twice on these episodes you've pronounced his name, and it's never not satisfying either.
He said I got it pretty close.
That's good. I'd rather you have an attempt than me.
Yeah.
Excellent job of reading the list there, Maz. Love it. We should also mention our sponsors for the evening, of course. That's tfsource.com and capeltoys.co.uk. Thank you, as ever, for sponsoring the pod. We love you.
If you want to check out our merch, head over to redbook.com/people/triple-takeover/explore. And if you think we've missed anything on today's episode, or if there's any particular retools you want to tell us about that you think are great, then head over to @triple-takeover, or one word, to find us on Facebook, or @triple_takeover, where you can find us on Instagram and Twitter. Lads, where can they find you?
I am at TFsquareone on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
I am at Sixo TF on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Patreon.
And I'm at Toybox Soapbox, anyway there's an app. As is befitting for an episode about retools, I thought about taking the previous outro and retooling it, but in the end, it would only end up being mistaken for Combiner Wars Silver Bolt. Thanks for listening. Regular programming will resume.
Just pipe in some lift music.
Yeah.
Do, 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 do.